Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Torrance with HollywoodWhipGuys.com, and I'm going to teach you how to do Agent Whiskey's bar fight bullwhip combo from Kingsman: The Golden Circle. So Agent Whiskey is of course played by Pedro Pascal, but his stunt double for this scene was Loop Rawlins, who is just an incredibly skilled Western arts performer who does whip cracking, rope spinning, and gun spinning. As an added twist, the whips that he was using for this scene were actually made by our very own Paul Nolan. The prerequisite techniques to practice for this combo are the overhead crack, the sidearm flick, the neck roll, and the fast figure eight. And make sure you can do this in both hands. For these moves, I will be using this 6-foot nylon bullwhip with a 12-inch handle. So the combo starts when Agent Whiskey draws his whip and gives us his big superhero overhead crack right into his fighting stance. For this part, you can really sell the intimidation factor by leaning into the crack, bending your knees, and slightly shifting your weight toward your back foot. Through the rest of the combo, keep your weight low and your legs spread apart. Now starts the fast part of the sequence. First, make sure you can get your sidearm flick real clean and keep the swing going after it cracks. Now immediately after the crack, you're going to go into the fast figure eight. From the flick to the first crack in the fast figure eight, your plane can stay pretty horizontal. But to go into the second crack in the fast figure eight, you'll need to make sure to shift into a much more vertical plane. That's partly to make it easier to pass the whip into the other hand for the next part of the sequence, and partly because if you do it more horizontal, you just increase the risk of hitting yourself. Once you're comfortable with those 3 cracks, the next step is to pass the whip from your dominant hand into your offhand behind your back and immediately swing up into the overhead plane. You're going to launch into another fast figure eight, but as you send out the first crack, give yourself a little hop so that as the crack lands, you can stomp back into the ground. So again, shift into a vertical plane as the second crack in the fast figure eight lands, so you can pass the whip back into your dominant hand. While you're changing hands, you're going to spin around 1 time, following the handle of the whip. So that means as you are passing the whip back into the other hand, you're going to spin in that same direction like a dog chasing its own tail. That's how you should feel. While you're doing that spin, make sure to swing the whip out so it's fully outstretched. That way you'll be set up for the next flick in the sequence. So you finish the spin, you're facing forward again, and now you send out a final sidearm flick directly into the neck roll. This move is really interesting because it passes the whip from the one hand to the other hand as it wraps around your neck. We can even see Agent Whiskey receive the whip as it comes out of that spin in his left hand. But then there's a slight continuity error because when we see Pedro Pascal's face again, he's pulling the whip off of his right shoulder with his right hand. It turns out in some of the behind-the-scenes footage, we can see Loop doing an extra spin to put that whip back into his right hand, but we don't have that in the movie. So there are actually a few ways that we can play around with this. In this case, I'm just going to do the final move in the offhand. The last move is another sidearm flick that wraps the opponent's neck. When you're feeling really comfortable with that wrap, it's really stably on there, launch that sucker. And that is how you do Agent Whiskey's bar fight bullwhip combo. I hope you like it. Let me know what you think, and check out HollywoodWhipGuys.com for information on lessons, classes, and personalized whip cracking coaching. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.